my mentality was, if I'm not doing something, someone's getting better than me. So that would push me to get up and do these things. And a lot of times when I used to go for runs or train, I'm like, I can't be bothered doing this, but I'll just keep pushing through that mental barrier. Because I think sometimes the mental barrier is what stops us more than the physical barrier.
In today's D8 Training podcast, we interview my brother, Ivan Franjic. Ivan is a highly accomplished and decorated footballer. He has played for Australia at both the World Cup and the Asia Cup, and he was part of the winning team for the 2015 Asia Cup. During the episode, I was blown away by Ivan's wealth of knowledge and experience, and I believe this episode is a must listen to for all, especially for parents and anyone that is aspiring to be an athlete. Ivan opens up about what it took to become a professional athlete, his journey, his sacrifices, and why strength training will put you ahead of the game. Regardless of whether you want to be a professional athlete or not, his advice can be applied to all areas of life. I hope you enjoy the episode as much as I enjoyed filming it. Hi, welcome to the D8 Training Podcast. I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure.
You're welcome. As I was researching about you and all your achievements, I knew that you had a lot. I actually didn't realize how many you had and how decorated you were. Proud to say I was there cheering you on many of those endeavours. So you had 3 A-League championships, 3 A-League premierships. You were part of the PFA A-League team of the season. You got chosen. You were part of the winning team in the 2015 Asia Cup. You've represented Australia in the 2014 World Cup, and you've got over 20 caps for the Australian national football team. Have I missed any?
You probably missed a couple, but that's enough.
I thought that I have. So what's your most memorable moment during your soccer career?
I think they're all memorable. Obviously, making national team appearance is something you always dream of as a kid. So I was fortunate enough to achieve that. And obviously winning trophies. You know, we all played a sport we love to win, and I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of silverware.
Do you have a favourite trophy that you won?
Look, they're all memorable. You can't really pick one or another, because when you win your first, it's very special, and when you win your last, it's special. And obviously winning for Australia, the Asian Cup 2015, it's never been done before. That's high up there. But no, every success is good because it's just the hard work you've put through the year. And when you win our trophies, that's what it's all about.
I remember being there for the 2015 Asia Cup, and it was extra time 1-1. And when you scored the winning goal and the whole stadium erupted, I had Chloe, who was 6 months old, and she was sleeping, and she definitely was wide awake after scoring that goal. It was such an amazing moment to be part of.
No, definitely. It's very special, these moments. And you look back at the end of your career and realize how lucky you were.
Well, you achieved your dream. You got to play professionally plus represent Australia. You know, this is something that most kids and even adults dream of. What was it like achieving your dream?
It's a lot of hard work, a lot of sacrifice to get there. When you get there in the end, you have to work even harder to stay up there, because these are probably the best athletes you're playing against in the world. So obviously it's not easy, but with dedication, you're always sacrificing, make sure recovery, your training's on point, your strength training, just to get the extra advantage of everyone.
So you mentioned sacrifice. What sort of sacrifices did you find that you needed to make?
Just, having proper recovery, make sure I'm doing all my strength training so you don't get little niggly injuries. Training 100% every time you rock up to training. I said recovery with sleep, but recovery after training with ice baths and spas, and just doing everything I need to make sure my body's ready for the next day, because it's really a day-to-day process when you're training at intense levels.
So after every training and game, would you get into an ice bath?
Yeah, obviously, once you play professionally, you're fortunate enough to have it. Once you finish training, it's there ready. So I'll jump in there after every training and game.
Then strength training. So when you played at the elite level, and you still play now for Melbourne Knights, how often would you do strength training?
Strength training, obviously, when you're playing professionally, once you're in season, you probably go twice a week, but then you do little injury prevention before every training. Now, obviously, we're semi-professional, but we try to do it twice a week, just 2 15 to 30-minute blocks after training, because obviously you don't get much time with people working, and that we try to be very professional in that sense.
So really, it sounds like the strength training really is important to help prevent that injury and keep you going throughout the season.
Oh, definitely. When you have little niggles, that's obviously you're not doing your strength and your injury prevention, which is very important these days, especially how fast sport has evolved over the last few years, and it's getting faster and faster. When you got the strength, your muscles are more explosive, you got more power, and that can be an advantage on the weekend.
Do you think kids should be doing strength training?
Definitely, kids should start. Obviously, kids is always a touchy subject, but you have to go with someone qualified. And once someone's there that's qualified and know what they're doing, it's great benefit for them long term, especially because they will probably prevent a lot of hamstring injuries and that if they didn't do it from a younger age as they get older.
I do find with a lot of kids, and especially when they come into the gym, they'll train soccer, for example, and they train 5 times a week plus play 1 to 2 games on the weekend without that strength training. Why do you think it's important that they do strength training?
As you get older, you need to have strong muscles because we all know as we get older, our body changes so much. If we get that strength, we start ahead of everyone. Once you start getting older, you're already there. You know what your muscles already, you're ahead of the field. I think I started late and I copped it for a lot of hamstring injuries because I never really had strength when I was growing up. I would just go kick a ball, and then once my body obviously had a growth spurt, started getting soft tissue injuries. And I never probably picked up a weight till I was 16, 17.
It sounded like it would have helped you should you have started earlier.
Definitely. Obviously, you need people that know what they're doing, and it helps a lot. When I was growing up, all I thought about was kicking a ball and going in the backyard and playing. I never thought about strength, and I was never educated on it. But now going into my career, I wish I did start earlier.
I remember in our backyard, the fences, there's so many dints from you kicking the ball for countless hours every day.
At the time, I found that more important than homework, which obviously isn't ideal, but it's what I love doing, and I had satisfaction kicking a ball in the backyard after school and that.
I remember Mum got called in once to teacher's office and she's like, oh, great, what's Ivan done now? And the teacher's like, he hasn't done anything, but all he writes about is soccer. I don't know how Shakespeare, he was able to turn that into soccer. Can you please help him and advise him not to turn everything into soccer?
Yeah, obviously it was my passion growing up, and I loved it. I was always watching soccer on TV or kicking a ball or running in the backyard, breaking fences.
What inspired you to want to be a professional soccer player? What did you love about it?
Growing up, my dad used to coach, and I always used to go down, and I just saw like when people score a goal, the feeling they got, the passion. And obviously being Croatian, it's in our bloodline, and we love football. It's like a religion over there. So that's really what set me off. I watch the national team, don't miss a game. I try to watch both national teams, Australia and Croatia, and I grew up supporting both, which I'm very lucky. I had 2 national teams to support. That means more games to watch.
You did get up in crazy hours of the night to watch. And is there someone that you looked up to or has inspired you throughout your soccer journey?
Obviously, you look at your parents. They used to take you every day of the week to training. I felt for you because we had 2 brothers playing soccer, which wasn't easy because every night one of us was training. No, obviously your dad, they give you inspiration, your parents. When I was growing up, I always used to watch Melbourne Knights with Mark Viduka there, and he inspired you as well. And then in the national team, I used to love Zvonimir Boban, the way he used to play, and Dario Tsuna. Once I went to right back, they were my idols growing up.
It was 5 nights a week soccer, and my parents were either driving you or Joseph. And then Sundays was match day. The best part about it was I knew Sunday would get a nice takeout lunch, whether it be McDonald's or Chavapi at Melbourne Knights.
Not the healthiest of food after games. If I knew back then the effect it would have, it was not great.
What should someone be having to get them ready for a game? What's a healthy, nutritious option?
I think this is a tricky question because playing professionally, you see everyone's different. I think it's important people have what works for them. Some people will have chicken and salads and that, and other people really carb load and have pastas and bread and toast and a lot of things like that. So I think everyone's different. You just need to find what works for yourself. But obviously after the game, protein is very important to recover for your muscles. So the more protein you can get, which I'm sure a lot of people know what in chicken you get protein. There's protein shakes these days. The quicker your body can recover, the better to get ready for the next week.
I even find training myself as I get older, protein makes such a difference.
No, definitely it does. It helps repair the muscles quicker.
Was there ever a time that you wanted to give up, and what made you keep going?
I don't think there's times you want to give up, but I think there is times where you don't feel like training and you just get up and you're like, I can't be bothered today, this and that. But my mentality was, if I'm not doing something, someone's getting better than me. So that would push me to get up and do these things. And a lot of times when I used to go for runs or train, I'm like, I can't be bothered doing this, but I'll just keep pushing through that mental barrier. Because I think sometimes the mental barrier is what stops us more than the physical barrier. Just getting up and saying, I can't be bothered. So you're always constantly fighting with your mind to do things and overcome it.
Well, I always say, like, the hardest part for me is getting into the gym. Once I'm in there and I start training or getting up to go for that run, you just keep going.
Once you're there, it's easy, but getting there sometimes is where you have the battle.
And how do you overcome that battle? So when you're there, like, I can't be bothered going.
I find when you start up again, the first week to 2 is the hardest to get back into routine. But once you get back into that routine, it becomes a lot easier. And honestly, how I keep fighting it is just going, I want to be the best. I want to keep improving every day. No matter how old you are, you're always still improving and can get better. And we know as age, your body slows down, but you can prevent it slowing down as long as you can by training. It's always going to slow down in the long run, but we can prevent the time it slows down. We can maybe add a year or two to our careers, or 3 or 4. You don't know. Everyone's different.
Well, what is it? You're 38 now and you're still playing semi-professionally at Melbourne Knights.
38, 36, turning 37.
What? No way.
Yeah.
You're turning 37.
Yeah.
Well, I should know that, hey? But still, you're playing at that age, which is impressive.
It is, now what I've been through, I know how to take care of my body, which helps a lot. I know when I feel like I'm starting to get a bit heavier, I'll go through a bit of eating a lot healthier with salads and cutting a few carbs out just to get back to my playing weight. But it's little sacrifices along the way. And like I said in the past, I've been fortunate enough to have the career I've had. You want to play as long as you can, especially now with kids. You want to see them watching you play soccer, because obviously you'd like your kids playing soccer. And the best way for them to do it is see their dad playing.
Definitely. So you mentioned that you've learned a lot and there's things you would have done differently. So knowing what you know now and what you went through, what's one thing that you would have done differently?
I probably would have had a lot more strength growing up, a lot more upper and lower body, just to get a lot stronger. Because when I did get up to the elite level, I felt I was a bit behind everyone, where I worked extra hard to gain. Where if I probably started it earlier, I would have been on par with him when I rocked up. So I probably could have excelled a bit earlier than what I did.
One thing I think people don't realize on what you did and, catching up with that strength training, all the discipline and sacrifices that you made. Like, I recall many instances where your friends were out late, but you always made sure that you were home. Was it before 11 o'clock? And especially when you had a game time, so that you were well rested and able to play at the best. Why do you believe the discipline and sacrifice is so important?
I think it just is because obviously I had a lot of mates that go out and I'll get up in the morning, I'll go kick a ball or go for a run. And, a lot of people, like I look back now, a lot of people are very good players as well. And if they probably sacrificed, they could have made it to a top level because they were very talented. But obviously, especially when you start going 17, 18, things start changing. We get our license, we can start going out, we can start going clubs. There's a lot of temptation there. And drinking, you can do whatever you want when you're 18, especially in Australia. Get in the casino, you can buy whatever you want. Don't get me wrong, I did go through that stage, but I broke out of that stage pretty quick because I wanted to be a footballer and that was my dream. So I knew how to make sacrifices.
And one thing, you were very competitive growing up. I often felt you'd rig the game so that you would win it because you hated losing. I don't know if you remember the volleyball game where it was me, you and Gina versus Uncle Gordon and Joseph. And Joseph couldn't even touch the water of the deep end. Do you remember that game?
Yep.
And the more frustrated you got, the worse we played and we ended up losing, though we probably should not have lost. Then the next day you wanted a rematch so you could win. Despite that, I believe that's what your determination was always evident. You pushed yourself hard to be able to win, and then also helped others. Like, you were encouraging to us, but we obviously didn't care about winning that game. Where did this drive came from, and how can someone else get that fire in that belly and that passion to make the sacrifices and achieve their dreams?
I think nothing's changed to this day. I still don't like losing, and I do win, but I don't know. That's just something that came within me. I've always hated losing, and Even if I play my kid and I won't let him win, I think people need to earn it to win.
So your 2-year-old, if you can beat him, you'll beat him and not let him win.
Exactly, because the day he beats me, he'll know he deserved it, and you'll create that mentality in him.
How do you handle loss?
A lot better these days than I used to, but it just drives me more to get better next time I play the person or the team or whatever. Seeing them sing or celebrate after the game, it hurts. I don't want to be the one hurting. I want them to be the one hurting, knowing that they played me and I beat them.
So what recommendations do you have for people on handling loss?
You're probably asking the wrong person. If I did lose, I'd go practice and practice and practice whatever I found that they were stronger at me, and make sure next time I play that their strength is my strength as well. What was their strength, it becomes a weakness for them. So then they have to rethink how they're going to beat me next time.
Similar to Michael Jordan.
Yep.
So what was the biggest challenge you had to overcome, and how did you go about it?
The biggest challenge being a footballer is in Australia, it's not the number one sport. You're already chasing from the start. There's a lot of challenges along the way. I think every day is a challenge, because especially when you get to an elite level, it could be 1 year you have a bad season, you might not get another contract. So you have to make sure you're always at the top. It's just every day is a challenge. Rock up to training, trying to be the best you can. If you're going to train bad, you're going to play bad. Very rarely I see players that can stroll through training and then bring the intensity on game day. And lucky for me, I was fortunate enough to have some very good coaches along the way that kept pushing not just me, the whole team together. And that's why we probably won a lot of silverware along the way.
So how important is a good coach?
A good coach is very important. Every person and every player is different. So a good coach knows how to manage every player to get the best out of them and help them. Like with the coaches I had, they'll drive the whole team. They'll speak to the team. You have to pull people aside differently. Some players you can yell at, some you have to put your hand around them. And I find the good coaches, which are man managers as well, they do that with all the team.
Who's your most memorable coach?
Oh, look, Andy Pogler was very good. I had a lot of success under him. He helped me when he came into Brisbane. He really helped me a lot and really evolved my game. And I think just not because we won silverware, I think it was just training every day, the way he managed myself and the team, which is very important.
If you don't have a good coach, I know once you get signed contracts, it gets more challenging. But I guess for kids growing up, if the coach is not a great coach, isn't working to their strengths, do you recommend changing and finding new coaches?
It's always a touchy subject because people have been at the club, they get attached to the club. But if it's not working out, I think the best thing is to do a change coach. Go to a different environment where you're not comfortable, where you feel you have to prove yourself, because that's going to push you to be better.
I do believe that if you're with a coach or with someone, whether it be in sport or outside, and they're not pushing you, it can actually be detrimental to you.
No, definitely. And a lot of people don't like to leave clubs because they're in their comfort zone. And you go to a new club, it's new challenges. You don't know people around there. For me, I find it's better because you feel like you have to prove yourself to the players and earn the respect of the change room.
How do you go about proving yourself?
That's a difficult question. But when I used to rock up, I'll just give 100% and I always backed my own quality. I always believed I was good enough. And I think that helped me a lot. But I think even when you go to a new team, there's one thing, you can have a bad day, you can have an off day, but one thing you can't have is not working hard, because that's something we can control. We can always have bad passes, bad touches as a footballer, but working hard is never an excuse.
You actually said 3 really key things there, which I wrote down. Always give 100% at training. Believe that you're good enough. I love the quote by Henry Ford. If you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. Either way, you're right. And I think that mindset and belief, which we spoke about earlier, is important. And then always work hard, regardless of a bad day.
Yep.
Let's talk about parents. You briefly touched on your parents earlier with your dad and watching him. How have your parents supported you throughout your soccer journey?
They've been at every game. They're always watching. For your mum, you can never do no wrong. You're the best player. For your dad, you can do no right. So with dad's always questioning if you miss a goal or something, I'd go work on it to get better.
You scored 10 goals, but hey, do you remember in the 46th minute you did this?
Yeah, I remember one day I scored 7 goals. He won 7-0, and my dad remembers the 3 I missed, not the 7 goals I scored.
Yeah.
I think like that, that's actually actually was beneficial for me because I go practice. Where if he said I was perfect, I'd probably just go sit at home on the couch and do nothing. So obviously he gave me the drive to get better and better.
So him providing the direct feedback really helped drive you. And do you think having that balance where mum was, like you said, you could do no wrong, you always played wonderfully, you did well, then with someone a bit harsher, would be very honest and direct feedback. And then sometimes you couldn't even challenge him because it was a bit inflexible and outdated in the way he thought, worked nicely?
No, definitely. Obviously, these days, I think, parents fix kids' problems too quickly instead of challenging the kid. If a kid's not playing, why do you think you're not playing? Maybe you need to work harder at something. Where I just feel like these days a lot has changed with the football in Australia, where it's more equal playing time and kids just are going to play no matter what. Back when I was growing up, if you're the best, you play. If you're not, you have to work harder to get in the starting 11.
One thing I think mum and dad did really well was they never got involved with the coaches. Like they wouldn't come and be like, hey, put my son here or put my daughter here. They let the coach be the coach.
No, definitely. Look, coaches have different opinions. One coach might like you, one coach might not. That's football. That's pass and parcel of the game. But
have you ever had a coach that hasn't liked you?
Yeah, of course I have. I've been with coaches.
How did you handle it?
It's not great. It's not a good feeling. Like, I'm sure everyone's going to experience it through their career. You think the coach isn't good, but sometimes you need to look at yourself and going, am I working hard enough? Am I doing what's needed to get in the squad? And when you actually go back and think, the questions that you're asking yourself is self-answered.
So really taking that own responsibility as opposed to being the victim and blaming others.
No, definitely. And sometimes, no matter what you do, a coach will not like you, but what you can do as a person is train 100%. So when you go to your next club, you're ready. You haven't let us pass where you're not giving 100%.
So what's the best piece of advice your parents have given you? So let's do one from dad, then one from mum.
I think with mum, every advice is positive. She's very happy. When you have a bad game, you go speak to her and she'll give you great advice that you played excellent. I think just Dad, you always used to say you need to train harder than everyone else if you want to become better. All boys love their dads. They look up to their dads, and that's the advice I took on board. Every day I was working harder to become better.
It seems like he instilled that well with you. And Dad worked hard on the building sites, providing for the family too.
Definitely.
Now, I know you train the kids. You're head of juniors for Melbourne Knights as well. You've got your total football, which we'll touch on a bit later on. But what's something parents should avoid when they're trying to encourage their kids?
I think parents try to fix kids' problems, where kids need to fix their own problems. That's how they learn. Yes, obviously we're more experienced. We know all the answers. We can help the kids. But are we really helping them in the long run? I don't think we are.
Yeah, I agree. And it's hard, I know, as a parent. I don't know if you've had this yet as Rio's growing up, but sometimes you want to fix it because you're like, oh, am I not doing it right as a parent, and having that doubt, or you don't want them to hurt themselves. But that hurt, or them going out without a jacket and it's 5 degrees outside, letting them learn, they know next time they're going to take that jacket as opposed to me carrying it around just in case.
Kids are going to make mistakes. We all made mistakes growing up along the way, which is normal. If you don't make mistakes, they're going to learn from mistakes if someone's always fixing your problems.
100%. What's something you wish your parents did but didn't do?
I don't know. I look back and I just think everything was fine. They were hard on me. Obviously I did cop a lot of punishments because I was a bit naughty, because I was a sore loser and I'd step over the line, and fairly dealt with looking back at it now. So I wouldn't really change much. Not at all, because obviously Dad worked hard, Mum looked after us, and it was just, that's the way it was growing up.
So you wouldn't have Mum cheering any less on the sidelines when you were 13-year-old playing?
Look, yeah, I was like, why is your mum screaming? But, you just get used to it after a while. When it happens every weekend, you just accept it.
You don't know any different, hey?
No.
So we have over 100 kids in our junior gym program, some starting at as young as the age of 8, and they all have aspirations to play for Australia, to play at an elite level. What's one piece of advice you would give to kids who want to represent Australia and compete soccer at an elite level?
What I'd say to them is you have to train every day. The reason people become good at their jobs is because they work 8 hours a day to become best at their jobs. So you need to try to match that, trying to become a footballer.
They should be working more. Like you say, people work their job at 8 hours a day. Should they be putting in like an extra half an hour or an hour on top of what everyone else is doing?
Even more. The more times it's for football, the more times you're touching the ball at your feet, the better you're becoming. The more things you're practicing, the easier it becomes, especially when you're young. When you're younger, your body can be put through a lot more with less injury. You're fortunate enough not to have many soft tissue injuries. They start coming when you're a bit older. So the more robust you come when you're younger, it benefits you when you're older.
And if a kid feels like giving up because they're struggling or they're not as good as they want to be, what advice do you have for kids then?
Oh, I would say for me, I would never give up. That's just me as a person, but find that inner belief in yourself, because things aren't going to be easy. You might have a bad 1 month, 6 months, 12 months, but when you come over the top of it, it's the best feeling ever.
That's a good segue. What is next for you? So I know you're currently coach player at Melbourne Knights and you're also head of the junior committee. What is next for your career and journey?
Obviously, my career is coming to a close now, so I've already started doing my coaching badges, and this year I was going to be my last year playing, but with circumstances at Knights changed and they put me as coach, which obviously I'm very fortunate to be in that position because people wait a long time just to get to NPL head coach. Now I want to become the best coach I can, and there's going to be a lot of hiccups along the way. I believe in my own ability, and I know I'm learning every day, trying to get better. You can never stop learning being a coach. You have to listen to people around you that have been on that experience, and obviously I'll have some mentors and they'll help me through it. So my next journey is trying to become the best coach I can and see what level I can reach there.
I reckon just knowing you and growing up with you, you'll probably be the Australia's next best coach.
I hope that's what you strive to be. It might happen, it might not. One thing I always say, I don't die wondering.
Let's put it out here. On the D8 podcast, it was said first that Ivan Franjic will be Australia's next best coach.
Let's hope.
So you run Total Football in Melbourne. Tell us about Total Football and what you do with kids and soccer there.
We're running our academy with kids on the side, and we've got a lot of players coming through the doors, and it's been good, because now when you coach kids and you see them make it, or I ring you and say I did this or I practiced this, it brings a smile to your face. So we try to help kids as much as we can. It's not just you come and train, we work a lot on their mentality as well, telling kids they're good enough, because they are. You can see they're good enough, but they just don't believe in themselves. So we really try to make kids believe and make their strengths and make their weaknesses as strong as they can possibly. Me and another guy run it, Steve White. We're running it between us. Now I'm trying to teach what I've learned to other kids. And it brings a smile to your face when they're messaging you or calling you, telling you, I've done this, I scored, this trick I practiced, it worked.
It sounds like you cover everything. So not just the soccer and the skills, but really assessing them, identifying where they need, and most importantly, their mindset.
Everyone goes through different challenges in life. You don't know what's happening outside of training, this and that, with the kid or at school. So number one is you try to build a connection with the kid, because you can't build a connection, there's no point you being his coach, because you're not the right person. So once you connect with the kid, everything else becomes easy.
And can anyone sign up and do this?
Yeah, of course. We've got our own Instagram page.
So what's the Instagram at Total Football?
Total Football 11_.
At Total Football 11_. I'll put that in the description of the podcast if anyone wants to go there directly. And is it Melbourne based only?
Only Melbourne based. We went over last holidays to Darwin, ran a camp up there, which was very good to see. Obviously Darwin, I think that's an untapped market up there with terms of players, because a lot of players were actually very impressed with the qualities they had.
So you're open to running clinics elsewhere around Australia if it's possible?
If the time works right with what's in our schedules, yeah.
Well, thanks, Ivan, for coming on to the podcast again. What you shared truly provided value. I actually learned a lot more from you. You were always just my brother, but talking to you now, I was quite impressed with that determination, that effort, and that drive you have within you. I don't think I realized how much you had until today. I'm really glad that you made it in soccer. I'm still your biggest cheerleader. I already called it. The next thing for you is the number one coach in Australia that's ever lived.
Look, it's a big challenge, but you don't aim for the top. You never know what can achieve. And obviously, I'm not a person that likes talking about myself too much.
You are very modest, but it's true. Reach for the stars, and if you only get to the clouds, hey, you got to the clouds, but at least you aimed high. Before we finish, I got 2 final questions. First one, what is one habit that someone can start today to make a positive impact on their training or vitality?
Just challenging yourself every day. If you're challenging yourself and, setting little goals and weekly goals to get to the end goal, that's the best thing you can do all day.
And lastly, what does dominate mean to you?
Dominate for me, when people ask me what dominate means, is where I play our opponent and he never wants to play you again.
Is that because you annihilated him?
Yeah, I like to, when I play, I like to not just win, but I'd like to say dominate. So next time he knows if he comes near me that I've already beaten him before he gets anywhere near me.
You've put that fear in him for next time.
Definitely. That's just me. So everyone's different. Everyone sees the word differently, but that's what dominate means to me. Where he plays you again, he's already lost before he steps on the pitch.
We had some of the record break boys in the gym. We set records, so you could most chin-ups, fastest run, longest hang, and so forth. So we had the boys in that set these records, and they had very similar responses to you, which is quite interesting. So I can see them succeeding and doing well.
Let's hope so. A lot of talented people, and we've got the talent. We need to dominate the national stage next as a country.
Yeah, bring on the Olympics. I hope we do well.
But definitely, I think we always do pretty well in there. So let's try to beat what we've had last time with our medal tally.
Thanks, Ivan, again for being on the show. And thank you, everyone, for listening. I know that this added value. There were so many gold nuggets in here. So please share this with someone else who may benefit from listening to Ivan's wisdom and wise words. Also, please subscribe to the show. And if you can leave a 5-star review on Apple, it would be appreciated, as your support will help us grow and continue to bring such valuable content to you and others. Until next time, dominate your life.